All right, I think I am live. All right, I think I'm going live. Was having a little bit of technical difficulties here in the beginning. Um, just kind of wait for a little bit to see if we have some people coming on since I'm a little bit late. Um, got caught behind a train on the way over here, so I would have had this a little bit more prepared. Um, but no excuses. I had an amazing day, and everything happens for a reason. And so I just want to say welcome to everybody who's going to be joining me live, and then also people who will come back later, which I'm assuming is going to happen since this is my first time. I'm going to be watching the replay of this. Um, but this is the first time I've done a live video on social media in a very long time. And I'm going to explain in the beginning of this video why that is, because I know there's probably a lot of questions around the people who have been following me over the last many, many years. Um, and especially this last year, why I kind of just abruptly left social media. And I've been doing that a lot lately over the last few years. I have to say, I don't necessarily always love being on social media. I am, you know, if I'm going to go into my zodiac, I'm a crab, so I really like being in my shell. But for the most part, really, I'm just going to spend the next minute talking about that. Um, for the longest time, I felt like I was living um, a life that wasn't mine, was for other people. And I needed to get back into my own true nature, um, and really realize what it is that I wanted for myself, um, and not live for others and not live for content because I'm constantly writing, I'm constantly creating, and it's always being requested of me to share, which I absolutely love doing. Um, but every once in a while, I just need to get back into touch with myself, especially when I'm about to go through a growth spurt, understanding what it is that I'm feeling, what it is that I'm going through, and what it is that I want to create next. And so I need those little incubation periods for myself, to be able to connect deeper, um, so I can create and be a little bit more innovative. And so this past year, actually, the past 4 years have been incredibly difficult, but this last year was very, very difficult. Um, and if you're on live here, this is my first time I think really doing like a YouTube live. So it shows that there's people here, but I don't know who's on. So if you feel comfortable, go ahead and just type in the chat and just say hi if I know you. If I don't know you, again, just introduce yourself, because I do like to see who I'm talking to. Um, but I Um, anyways, I really needed to have that time to connect into myself, so I could grow into the person I was becoming, rather than just staying stagnant. I'm somebody who really thrives off of growth. That's my biggest motivating factor. And when I don't feel like I'm growing, I really feel like I'm dying. Um, and that's kind of how I was feeling for a while. And uh, I had gone through a very intense time in my life where I will be sharing later how I felt like just kind of being in a pressure cooker. Like the pressure was just building and building and building up, and I was experiencing things that I never really experienced before, and feelings that I never really had experienced before. And I had to feel that before I'm the type of person that really needs to feel things deeply and totally before I express it out into the world, because I need to understand where those are coming from within myself before I share those insights with other people. And so it's a very internal process for me. Um, and it's a very internal process for me. And as I'm understanding myself and imbibing what it is that I'm learning and witnessing in my outside reality, it's things that I'm contemplating in my head. How can I transmute that into something bigger and better? And as I was going through those changes in my life, um, not sure why I'm feeling emotional right now, but um, I was contemplating very deeply going into uh, becoming a nun. And um, right before I was going to go do that, um, I was going to be leaving to go do that. I met somebody who asked me to stay. And I decided to stay for a little while. But it was still something that I really desired to do. And I had some really amazing friends here that had run a ministry for like 30 years or so. And I was sharing with them what I was feeling and going through. And they're a couple. And the wife had said, "Why don't you just go become a nun?" And I said, "I've been praying about that quite a bit, because I feel like that's the next phase for me. But for whatever reason, that's just not what was being called for me to do." Because every single time I was wanting to escape and go into that cave, it was like, "No, you need to come out. That's not what you were born to do." And then her husband had just defined it really well for me. He's like, "You're being kicked out of the Bodhi tree." And I was like, "You're right, I am." And for those of you who don't know what the Bodhi tree is, it's really that Buddhic nature. And back in 2021, um, when I was really diving deep into that next phase in my life, which was diving again deeper into my Buddhic training, I had a teacher tell me, "So you've gone through all these phases, like the I am and the me and all this, but now you're becoming a person. And it's time for you to learn how to become a person." And I didn't quite understand what that meant. It kind of left. It's like when you study and train in your Buddhic, it's you're always left with the cliffhanger that you got to figure out, and it's literally like the most out of all of the trainings, the Buddhic nature is like, what? Because it's very uh, you really have to contemplate very deep on what it is that you're being taught. And really becoming a person is becoming one with everything. um, and as you get kicked out of the tree, where you have this teacher that kind of comes in and out while you're witnessing what's happening in the world, you no longer get to just sit there. Now you've got to go out there and live it. And as you are in this space of witnessing it but not being of it and questioning everything, and then now you've got to be of it, it's a very vulnerable place when the walls are now down out of your heart. You feel like you're always being poked. And there's really only two natures after you've reached that level. And it either becomes people either really like you or they reject you. And it's either you're laughing with life or life seems so serious. Um, and it's been a place of navigation for me that I've been really trying to understand in myself and maintaining that Buddhic nature of being happy and playful when we're in times where many people aren't there, and it's been a place of navigation for me to understand. So anyway, so that's just a little bit of, for the people who've been following me for a while, under why it is that um, even though I don't really, um, I just felt like I wanted to share that because I know that there's probably some people that are kind of feeling the same way. And because of that, I like to share my experiences. So, with that, I definitely want to dive a little bit deeper into that topic and uh, what it means when I say the world needs a mother. Um, I'm not going to go too in depth into many of the situations that I experienced over the last year. I'm not quite ready to share that yet, um, mostly because I'm still dealing with it on a level. Um, and my heart's not quite totally healed yet from one of the experiences. So I'm not quite ready to share that, but I will. Um, but what does it mean to say that the world needs a mother? Just the other day, a friend of mine who I'm very close to sent me something and, basically said, I've been thinking about you and I wanted to send you something. And she sent me something really beautiful. And um, and it was something that I've shared with her, and she actually is a friend of mine who I've helped grow. She used to be a client of mine, but like most of my clients, we have always end up becoming really good friends. And she also edited my book for me. Was one of the editors for my book, and my book is my upcoming book is called "I'm Not Your Villain, I'm Your Mother," and in that book, I talk about a lot about generational trauma and how generational trauma forms and where it comes from and how we're able to transcend it so it's no longer an identity that we hold, so we can transcend it and become closer to ourselves. And um, one of the things about that is when I gave this speech many, many years ago, I talked about rising above the duality between the masculine and the feminine, and that it really is our job as we go into self actualization to balance those two energies, and to, if we want to see the balance of those energies out there in our physical world on a big scale, we must go within and balance those energies within ourselves. And it's not easy to do that because a lot of us have faced many, many really severe wounds, uh, hurtful wounds, abuse, whether that be sexual traumas, emotional traumas, psychological traumas, physical traumas. And I can check all those boxes, every single one of them. Um, I was sexually assaulted when I was a little baby. Um, I was physically abused from a child, psychologically abused from a child, all the way through my adult life, emotionally. Um, any kind of abuse, basically, you can. I, I can check all those boxes. Um, and I've had to look at every single one of those individually. And I will have to say, probably the most difficult one to face was the sexual abuse that I had to face. That I didn't really have a lot of memory of until I started going really, really deep into the generational trauma that I faced. Um, and that was really difficult to look at. And not necessarily, um, I'm trying to decide where I really want to start next because it's kind of impromptu. And this is my first time being back on live for a while, so I kind of feel strangely out of my element when this is something that used to be my element. Um, used to be something that was I did very consistently, but I'll get back in the game of things. Um, the very basis and premise and foundation of my book is getting to a place of motherhood. I'm Not Your Villain, I'm Your Mother is a book that was written that even though we are going through things in life that were passed down from generation to generation and generation, and we look at our early caregivers and the programming that we gained from our families, um, and watch it play out in our lives, as we grow up, we start to develop safety mechanisms around ourselves that protect us and keep us safe. And later on in life, people like to call that ego, which I really can't stand that word ego because it's making a part of us wrong, or a part of us bad, which I don't believe any part of any human being is wrong or bad or broken. I don't see any human being, regardless of how egregious their behavior is or whatever, as being a bad person. Nobody grows up or nobody wakes up every single day saying, how can I F up today? Or how can I make a bad choice today? Nobody does that. Every single day, we all wake up with the intention to do the right thing. And whatever that looks like for an individual person is going to look different. And it's not my job or anybody else's job to place judgment on another person based off of their experiences that they're going on in life. My only responsibility is to witness people as a spiritual being. And wherever they are on their spiritual journey, that's where they are. And it doesn't make me or anybody else further along in a spiritual journey, because that goes against nature of comparing yourself to somebody else, regardless of where they're at. Now, it doesn't make anybody less responsible for what they're going through, but I can hold space for where people are in their life and hold them accountable to being a spiritual being. And that's the way I tend to look at things. And um, and just holding space in that place. And I hope that my hope is in this container, that when you come here on these videos, or any other of my social media outlets that we plan on doing as I move forward in this new venture in my life, is that we do create a safe container for you to be able to share without judgment, without scrutiny, and knowing that this is just an open place for us to just hold space for each other and honoring each other as a spiritual being, regardless of the circumstances. that you've gone through. There's a workshop that I used to do many years ago, um, that I've done several times, which I'll definitely bring back. Somebody had requested about a month and a half ago that I teach this workshop again, and I've just been really busy, and it's just not part of the work that I do anymore. But I feel like maybe it would be something to bring back. But it was a workshop that I called "What Is Love," and I've been hired to do this workshop in this talk several times. And I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek, I guess. In the beginning of this workshop, when I first did it, I was like, we're talking about love, so we have to have a heart opener in the very beginning. And I had my participants in this workshop share something that they've never shared with anybody before in a container of a bunch of strangers. And one of my uh, participants in this container shared with me, she was about to share something that she'd never shared before. And she's like, "Oh, I feel sick to my stomach because I can feel the judgment of everybody just going to come on as soon as I share this." Um, but it was crazy because she shared her story, and you could just see the heartstrings of everybody just start to connect. And it ended up opening up an amazing and beautiful conversation. And after the talk, nobody wanted to leave. They're like, "Can we stay and continue the conversation?" So I was like, "Well, sure, I don't have any plans afterwards." So we just stayed for hours, just continuing the conversation, which I thought was really great. And that is really what I want to create here. And so the topic today is really how to maintain inner peace um, when the world around you just seems like complete chaos. The world around you just seems to feel like it's going to hell in a handbasket, and we're still here trying to find peace in our own lives while trying to mitigate the chaos that's really unavoidable around us, because you're living in a world where you're trying to be a monastic being in a world full of duality, full of good and bad, right and wrong, likes and dislikes, um, hate and love, and feeling like I've got to choose some kind of side to be on. But then, yet, when you choose a side, you realize that neither one of the sides is fulfilling, and you don't find peace on whatever side of the spectrum you're on. And so then it's just like we constantly bouncing back in what I call a sick game of ping pong, trying to figure out what side to lie on. But at the end of the day, there's always a third side to the coin. And that's that Buddhic nature of becoming neutral. And it's a very, very, very thin line. And it's a line where you've got to really learn to be in a place of like a lot of trust, a lot of surrender, and you're pretty much walking a world blindfolded, trying to walk this line of maintaining your own inner peace and in your own world and your own land as you're trying to navigate and learn more of yourself moving forward in life, constantly growing, while you've got all these outside influences trying to distract you outside of your inner peace. And if you've ever seen any of those videos of the Buddhists walking blindfolded, that's exactly what it is that they're trying to um, maintain or navigate. It's navigating across that line of neutrality while the world around you is still moving. And it's not always easy to do that because there's all these societal things that are coming at you that are telling you to live like this way, to look like this, to talk like this, to be like this. Like you have some kind of societal obligation to everybody else. When at the end of the day, there are 7.8 billion people on this planet, and you're trying to figure out how to make everybody around you happy. Well, at the end of the day, you haven't even figured out how to make yourself happy. It's a heavy burden to carry. And over the last few years, I realized that this journey that I was on, which I was very blessed to be able to coach a lot of people all over the world into understanding this place within themselves. And as I was going through these changes within myself, I was able to then experience it and transmute it into a higher being of myself. And then, therefore, I was able to go out and teach it to other people. And then one day I got really smart and realized that, yes, I'm able to share this with other people, but it's a lot more fun just living my life and realizing the only person I'm responsible for liberating is myself. Your irritations are a key to your liberation. And what irritates you in the world are things that come up for you to liberate within yourself. And when you own those irritations within yourself and recognize and see where those stemmed from and came from, and it doesn't have to be a painful, arduous process. It can come on like this. You can be aware of it and transcend it into something higher where those things are no longer triggers. Those things end up becoming that liberation and a light and a guiding star for other people to follow you because you're now leading by example. And that's not always the easiest thing to do. As I came out of um, the Bodhi tree, basically, for the longest time, and even up until now, it felt like as soon as I came out and I was feeling a little bit more at peace after having my entire world shaken up, um, I was getting a lot of people who were recognizing that light, but then I also had a lot of people throwing stones. And then there was a period where it felt like it was just nothing but stones. And I was talking to a really, really, really good friend of mine who was experiencing the same thing. And we're both like, what the heck? Like, what's going on? And all we had was each other to lean on because it just felt like that was the only safe place was for the two of us to lean on each other. Like, why does it feel like, regardless of what we do, we're just being casted by stones? And that's part of the training. How is can you really consider yourself going through enlightenment and just walking around in the world where people are praising you? Are you still able to maintain the peace within the chaos? The message behind The World Needs a Mother is really about getting back into that nature of who you really are and your value outside of any kind of external motivating factor, outside of the house you live in, outside of the car you drive, outside of the amount of money that's in your bank account, outside of how you look, um, how you appear or show up in the world. Who are you? Outside of the image of your relationships, of your family, of your children, of your siblings, of your friends, of your mom, dad, grandma, whatever that might be. Who are you? Was having a conversation earlier today with some friends and talking about like being ready to step out and express yourself in the world. And it's like, well, I've got to be ready to do this. I got to prepare myself to do this. But at the end of the day, just you being you is the readiness. You being you is the value, is the currency, is the frequency, is self love. Now, I'm not sure how the algorithm here on YouTube works because right now, the counter right now is fluctuating between 0 and 1 and whatever. And I have no idea if I'm talking to myself or if I'm talking to somebody else. I don't know. This video might just be for me because I said I was ready to step out into the world. And so universe might be saying, well, nobody wants to hear what you have to say. Are you still ready to step out and share what you have to say, even though you have really nothing prepared and it feels like you're all over the place and you're used to having a big audience? Even if nobody wants to hear you, are you still ready to speak? That could have been my lesson today. Who knows? Earlier today, when I was on my way and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late. Um, I couldn't figure out the YouTube thing for a minute. And I was like, oh, maybe this isn't the right timing. Maybe I should just do this later. I was like, no, I said I was going to show up, so I'm showing up. Regardless if nobody sees this. Regardless if I'm not used to the large audiences that I'm accustomed to from the past. But I'm not my past. This is who I am now. And my expression of that is going to be much different than it was before. Whatever that message might be, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that message is yet. Because I'm stepping into a person, a much bigger version of myself that I haven't yet played yet. And every single day, I'm diving deeper and deeper and deeper into the woman that I am becoming. And every day, I'm learning more and more and more and more about myself. And sometimes it's painful. But eventually, in a few days later, usually I'm laughing about it as I'm trying to navigate, you know, feelings that I've never really experienced before. I've lived through a lot of aches and pains and dramas in my life, but one thing that I've never really experienced before was anxiety. And that's something that I've been experiencing a little bit, because I am expanding into something so much bigger than I've ever experienced before in my life. And not that long ago, I was on the phone with my dad. I get my love for religion and philosophy and contemplation, from my dad, I think, because my dad is just like a lover of philosophy and religion and things like that. Um, and it's just something that I'm just absolutely fascinated with. Um, and I was having a conversation with my dad, um, about how I often have thoughts of just wanting to rip myself out of my body. I'm like, I just feel so small and tiny in this body. And sometimes this body just feels like it's so restrictive, and I just want to return to who I am, where I feel comfortable just being a piece of stardust, where I feel like I can fully express myself. And in this form, I don't feel like I'm able to fully be myself. And sometimes, if you share that with people in the world, they're going to label that as a mental illness and say you're suicidal, which is not the case at all. It's just I experience these moments a lot where I transcend the body and I'm just out there and it just feels so amazing. And then I come back in here and it feels restrictive. And then I feel those things around the world that sometimes want to disrupt my inner peace, and I feel confused as to why these distractions would even want to disrupt my inner peace. But then I have to remind myself that my inner peace is my responsibility and my responsibility alone. And occasionally I need to just like burst it out and vent and be angry about it for just a moment. But then at the end of the day, ask myself, why did that really truly upset me? And then as I contemplate that, and then later on, I thank the universe with gratitude. Thank you so much for showing me that, and have the gratitude to transcend it. So I no longer have those feelings of inadequacy. So I no longer experience that within my own inner being. So then when it shows up again, I'm either able to verbalize it and no longer project that into my movie, that I have full creation or full uh, creative rights to, and can write a new script. And every time we're about to jump realms and transcend into a new reality, that pressure cooker, it seems like the energies around just get denser and denser and denser and denser and denser until it boils over and becomes steam, becomes vapor, and we're able to transcend that eye of the storm. So today I just really wanted to. I think it was just necessary for me to just uh, do my first step, so the universe can start conspiring with me to get back out there and um, and express myself in a way that's brand new, that's a little bit different than it was before. And after having a really rough few years, get back on my feet and be resilient again, rather than being hiding after feeling like I was betrayed and attacked and um, and feeling like I lost everything. But at the end of the day, I didn't lose anything. I gained a lot. And the thing that I feel like I gained the most was a deeper understanding of myself. And as I learn how to appreciate that and turn that into passion, into what it is that I'm creating to move forward, um, in my life and in my endeavors and in my work, in my friendships, in every single capacity of my life, especially learning how to bring more balance um, into my being. My hope is to be able, through my experiences, to be able to share, or to be able to inspire others to thrive and prosper in ways that seemed impossible before I stepped out and shared my experiences. Because it's the only reason why I went through these experiences, not only to liberate myself, but to share similar experiences, so we're able to go out into the world with a little bit more love and compassion for each other. And that really is our only responsibility, is to show love and compassion for each other. So with that being said, um, feel free to reach me here. You can comment directly on this video. Definitely subscribe and share with your friends. Like I said, I'm going to be on here every Sunday night, being consistent, which and basically starting over, and seeing how this all evolves. And um, I'm I'm still not going to be on Facebook. It just doesn't feel right for me right now. But for right now, it'll be just YouTube and Instagram. And I just want you all to know too that um, this pressure cooker did force me to write my second book, which is called the world needs our. I'm not your villain. I'm your mother. Um, we have a new website. And my new business is called Blue Magic. I'm not going to go into much detail on that right now, but at the end of the day, we're getting into agriculture. We'll be diving really deep into this podcast, or whatever it is that you want to call it, diving really deep into the healing effects um, of plants, uh, specifically psilocybin, and how it treats traumas, and DMT. Um, and um, And finding ways that we're able to connect every single day with the divine being that you are. Every single person on this planet is divine, whether or not you believe that of yourself or not. And so with Blue Magic, it is our mission to create products and services that help connect you deeper into recognizing your own divinity. And for that, I just want to say I want to honor each and every single one of you for your divinity and thank you for showing up in this world, regardless of what stage you feel that you are in your spirituality. And um, and again, I'm happy to answer any questions and be there. We do have on our website, you will see that we will have different um, uh, teas right now, mushroom products, and things like that um, that will be available to help you and your nervous system in your body start to deprogram from those generational traumas that you may have experienced, well, that we've all experienced growing up, because it's not possible that there's a person on the planet that hasn't experienced some kind of trauma. Um, and anyways, we're going to be moving forward for that. So, anyways, check out our links. Our website will be up again. I took it down and brought up, going to be bringing it back up, and it's testashrooms.com. And I just want to thank again everybody here who was on live with me and who's going to be seeing this later on. And I look forward to continuing this topic of conversation each and every week. And if you have any kind of topic that you feel like you would like me to cover, um, please feel free to message um, because this is a conversation and a dialogue that's not about me just talking at you. It's a conversation that uh, that we have for you and address issues that everybody is facing in the world right now. So, with that, I just want to say I honor, love, and respect each and every single one of you on this stream and not. And I look forward to continuing the conversations during the week on Instagram and every Sunday night at 6 o'clock PST on YouTube. With that, I'm going to sign off. Love you all so much. Good night.